That's amazing. Of course, this wasn't the first god you defeated. In the documentary, the first time you beat Hungrybox, it's sort of shown as the Big House 4, but in actual fact, it was at Apex 2014, which was interesting to me because I do remember, I was there briefly, and I do remember the Salty Suite, where, doesn't he beat you at the Salty Suite, but you beat him in bracket, right?
Yeah, so he beats in Salt Suite. We have this whole like thing, and that's where the like this image comes from too. And that was hype, but I lost like pretty bad. But like I just felt like I played terrible, and you can see that he like pops off, and he does like the thing he did where he's like does this, and he pops off, and then once I see him in bracket, like I can see the path. I think I had to beat Axe first. After that point, it was just on. I was so motivated to like get revenge from the day before, and that was an amazing feeling to win like really dominantly, and like I know that he was really salty when he lost that too.
Oh yeah. He was your first. I mean, the first one to sort of knock off on that level. Was that sort of a big benchmark for you, or like, wow, I took out one of the gods?
At the time, I mean, Hungrybox was definitely considered the weakest one. So it was great, but I think to me, I thought more about the fact that I got into top 8 winners than the fact that I got like just beat Hungrybox, I guess. Because to me, that was like the reason I challenged him to Salt Suit was because I thought I could beat him. I thought I could win that matchup. So I guess for me, it was like, well, this is one of the better matchups I have in the top 8, except for Armada, I guess. But he wasn't playing at the time, so it was definitely like I put my mark. But it was at that time it was more about getting to top 8 than actually like beating HBox, just because he was seen as one of the weaker ones.
Right. Okay, cool. And I kind of got that at the time too. There was, I think, some people, that really wanted to see more of Mewtwo King and HBox in metagame maybe don't remember how they were. They were the two kind of lower rung, and then it was PP, Armada, and Mango that were
for sure,
definitely on the top. And so I was sort of like, at the time I was like, oh well, he beat Hungrybox, but he's one of the weaker ones. Let's see what else he can do. And when you beat Armada, that was crazy. Do you think that I feel like I think that particular win, Beast 5, was when you tweeted out revenge.zip. Is that right?
I think that was Beast 4. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, not Beast 5. Yeah, sorry.
They're pretty simple.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what it felt to me at that time. Like that felt like revenge.
Yeah. Do you think that was that when you started to kind of lean into the because that Apex 2014 Salty Suite with the image of you going like this with the arms crossed, like that sort of, I think, helped feed into the image, the evil Leffen image. And then your wins, when you with the taunts and everything, it really started to kind of coalesce. Did you feel like you started to have more support after that win, like with the Zip Boys and stuff?
Yeah, I definitely felt like it. And I mean, at the time, like I'm gonna be honest, I think that a lot of people started supporting me, not because they thought I had changed, but simply because I got better at Smash.
Yeah.
Like I think it was like. Well, I guess it's like it could be a bit better than that. It was more that like I got more exposure, and as people looked more and more into me, they watched my streams and stuff like that. I think people realized that like, yeah, well, he's a character and like he's this thing, but he's also probably not as bad as like people have been painting him as. But I definitely do think that like at the time I didn't really feel like supported, because I felt that a lot of the people that changed their thoughts on me now simply do it because I'm winning.
Right.
And like to me it was like kind of a split thing where I wanted obviously respect from people for being good at Smash, but I also just wanted people to realize that like I'm not this person that's like manipulative and lies about everything, and like everything that's in evidence.zip.
Right, exactly. Well, cool. I mean, you're in this time period too. Like I guess we're kind of coming into the summer of Smash here. Obviously, your return to the community sort of coincided with like an explosion of popularity, and for something that the Smash scene hadn't seen probably since like the golden age with MLG, and this was like even way over the top, like different. Did you sort of see that as an opportunity to like strike while the iron was hot, sort of, and pursue that as your full-time gig?
Yeah, exactly. So at that time, I was working, but I realized that like both the summer of Smash, I worked like I I was starting a new job too, so I couldn't like turn down a shift. So I basically told them like I will work every single shift you can give me if you can give me these days in a row off. So I would plan the major dates like MLG and such, and I would go from work to the airport, go there, boot camp for like 1 or 2 days before, and then as soon as I got back, like I would go from the airport back home after like a 20-hour flight straight
Jesus.
to work. And then on the like that's probably the hardest I've ever worked, because not only did I do that to do well, but as after a little bit of time, I started realizing that like I need to stream if I want to do this full time. I
Yeah.
thought I've seen, maybe it was Gim or someone that did a sub goal that like quit work and like do this full time. And to me, that was like, this is the way. This is how I get out, and this is how I do it full time. And then I think did Smash 4 come out in 2014? I think it did.
Yes, in fact, I
Yeah.
remember you. I have footage of you at the Big House 4. I think you lost your 3DS or something when you came to the venue. You're like, where the fuck is my
Mm.
3DS? So I think it was right around then, right around the later half of 2014 when Smash 4 came out.
Yeah, so at that time, I really realized that like, not only is this the way forward, like the villain thing and like beating everyone, but then also Smash 4 is gonna come out. Like, I can make content of this. So I remember streaming from like a webcam, focusing in on my 3DS because I didn't have a 3DS capture card, and just like beating people up on like terrible Wi-Fi on 3DS. Um, and I realized that like, well, now all I need is a sponsor, right? And like that was my big plan, that I would work double. I would work like enough to pay rent and like to do my job, but then also to stream as much as I could when I wasn't working, and then also like travel to every tournament I could, because I needed to get to the point where I could pay rent with Smash, even just temporarily. So I really leaned, like that was the time where I like fully leaned into the whole like God Slayer and like the five gods, because at that time I not only wanted to beat them, but I also needed like the extra support for all the, I mean for the money and for like to get a sponsor and such.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's funny, like when I overheard Mango talking with Hiko at the Big House 4, he was talking about like, that was where I first overheard him talking about, yeah, I just want to stream for a living and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I don't think you were alone in that sort of thought process. You've certainly come a long way since the webcam pointed at a 3DS. Did you so I guess we're getting into the summer of Smash here. Do you feel like that because you obviously put in the time, but that I can't imagine that the jet lag and everything when you're flying to the States to do these big events. Do you think that affected your performance at all at any of these tournaments during the summer? I mean, even you still beat PP for the
Yeah.
first time at MLG Anaheim, but I think your other events weren't as didn't have as many good results that summer.
Yeah. No, I definitely felt like I was like, maybe I was a little bit content as well, just because I had done the big comeback from Beast and like I didn't have as much proof. But I definitely think that like just the jet lag and trying to like sort everything out probably did affect my results to a certain degree. Um, I think my results at like Apex and Beast were like a little bit of an outlier as well. Like that was like I played really well at those events,
Yeah.
and then after that I was kind of in like this in between spots where like I was good, but I barely missed the win on a couple of things, and I almost won, but I wasn't quite as like focused and fully dedicated.
Yeah.
And it took until like I guess the big house until I had my next good event.
Yeah, that was you beat Hungerbox, you beat Armada.
And then I lost to Mute King and Mango.
That's right. That's right.
Mhm.
The two people you would go on to beat. But before we get there, your MLG Anaheim match with PP.
Mhm.
What was that like? That was an incredible set. Kind of the back and forth. It was insane
Oh yeah,
combos
yeah.
there. What did that feel like? And sort of, how did you feel like? And maybe this is a sub question. When you fight these guys in these moments, are you sort of reacting and to their fighting style and sort of how does that process for you?
Mhm. So I mean, at the time, people was still like really, really good. He obviously won Apex and Skatar. And we didn't really know how good he was. So he was like one of the people to beat at that time. He ended up later underperforming, but at the time when I beat him, it was seen as like a very big win. It was not like, oh well, people was one of the gods. He was like the god almost at the time.
Yeah,
So to me, I had just been kind of like looked at his Apex videos and his Skater videos, and he dominated everyone at that tournament. So I really looked into like how he was playing, what he was doing well, um, and it was a crazy back and forth set because I destroyed his Falco, and then he went Marth, and that kind of shook everything up because his Marth wasn't quite ready, I would say, to play in the Fox matchup. But I was not ready at all to play against this Marth either because I expected him to just stick it out with Falco because that's like he had never really counterpicked Marth against Fox before. So it was a crazy back and forth set, and like I remember the game 5 on FD where he like does an up B, and it was just the craziest weird set.
yeah. That was insane at the end there, man. That was one of my favorite sort of back and forths from that event. Um, did you when you did win and you said it was definitely an upset? Did you sort of feel like okay, well now there's only two left, so
Mhm.
you're getting there.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those where I was like, I finally showed another good performance again because it had been a little bit, and it was like it was a big win, but I still realized I had some left because I didn't place that highly in the actual tournament after. Um, so it was a lot about my own performance, but also obviously, um, I felt like I could beat anyone at the time, but I still needed to get both Muta King and Mango back.
Yeah, 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 and This is the half where I was really started to like, okay, oh my god, this is because for me, Mewtwo King and Mango were like and maybe this is true for you too, because you were also a young guy getting into the scene. Mewtwo King and Mango
Mhm.
were already established. Like, did you look up to these guys in a certain way and kind of I don't know, did the fact that they had been like these old school gods sort of intimidate you in any way, or were you just like, no, I can do this?
So Muta King, I mean, he was again like a little bit stuck between Brawl and Melee, but I started with Brawl at the very beginning, so he was always considered like one of the best for me. And then Mango, I did actually like. I didn't really look up to him as like I wasn't a crazy Mango fanboy, but I really liked how he played Fox and Falco. I would like I started out with Falco, and I would study both him and his Fox playstyle ways. I remember watching like him versus Armada Pound friendlies, like there were a couple friendlies,
Yeah.
and really taking like inspiration. So I like there's tournaments where I used the Neo tag that he used.
Really?
Uh, yeah,
No
it was
shit.
like a at a finish tournament.
I'm gonna try to find those then.
um, and yeah, it was definitely like I've taken a lot of inspiration from that, and I definitely did look up to especially Mango's spacey style because he was the spacey outside of PP. Like
Yeah.
both PP and Mango were the people I really took a lot of inspiration from. But at that time, it was probably a little bit more Mango because he played Fox and I played Fox at the time. But I also didn't really agree with a lot of things he did, and like there's still a big like culture shift, and like we're both very different as players and as people still.
Yeah.
But it was like it was weird with me and Mango because at Apex, like the first tournament, I win the first game. Like I bring into game 5. I get 4 stock game 5, but it wasn't. It was actually a close set. And then the same thing happens then at Big House, where like we had a really competitive set, and then he just 4 stocks me, and it's one of those things where I was like, I felt like it kept falling apart, and he kept playing amazing, but I knew that like if I get a little bit better, if I figure out a bit more, like I can turn everything. Like it doesn't even have to be close.
That is it's one of the questions I wanted to ask you was about those 4 stocks, because that was sort of like a meme back then after Apex 2014, which was an incredibly hype set with you and Mango. But the fact that you got 4 stock there and then 4 stocked again at the Big House 4, and then again at Beast 5, except that was with Armada. It was just like, it became sort of what that is. So it seems to me it is so easy then to just kind of break and falter and fall apart. And the fact that you were able to sort of overcome that is incredible to me. And it's something that actually I was with PP in North Carolina watching the Beast 5 finals, and he watches and sort of like, you can tell he's sort of like, oh no, Leffen's gonna crumble again, and he was just sort of in awe. I think in episode 7 he's sort of like, he did it, and like Leffen's getting up there now. So sort of talk about that.
That was actually one of the like really moments I really enjoyed, because I had no idea PP watched that, and watching like that perspective from someone else. No, but yeah, like, I mean, Fox is just a really fragile character, and especially at the time, my strength was definitely not in defense, because and right now people are the best at comboing Fox. Like, people play the most against Fox, but back then it was even more so. Like, people really knew how to combo Fox, but even Falco was very different for them. And so I would both get like 4-star because people would just hit their punishes. And if you look at any trailer for the time, like this upcoming tournament, half the clips are from Mango or King or anyone just comboing me, because I didn't have the best DI. I didn't have the best defense, but also I was just the best Fox playing in the high stake moments against the best people with punishes. So I kind of knew that, like, sometimes you just gotta roll with punch. Like, sometimes you will get 4-stocked.
Yeah.
But I definitely had an issue of like slightly crumbling when things were going, like, when I wasn't playing hot, I for a time had this mentality of like, well, I'm not playing good, so I don't deserve to win. Like, well, I'll try again next time so I can win when I play good.
Right.
But what I later realized, and I think this really came out during the Beast thing, was that, like, I think that the Armada 4-stock and stuff like that, I mean, to me, I remember that as like both him playing good, but also I remember that he like put his hands in and like hand warmed because the venue was cold, and that he waited for like what felt like hours. It was probably like 2 minutes, and my hands went cold. So I was like, oh, I just played like shit. I'm gonna lose, because like, obviously he played great, but like it threw me off in many different ways. So at that time, I thought back to like to something I really hold like very strongly now, which is like, yeah, like, it's great if you win when you play great, and there's gonna be sets where you play great, but sometimes I just want to win. I don't care if it's pretty, like, and that was what I thought about, like, in between, like, yeah, it's all looking like I'm gonna lose the set now. Armada's gonna take the next set with all the momentum, like he forced up me. But like, I don't care if this set is stupid bullshit because my hands are cold. I'll win anyway. Like, I can win, even like not even next set, but I'll win this match. And I think that resilience is something that like I was really bad at, but something I like now, and eventually like later Paragon, like making comebacks is kind of like something I realize you have to get good at if you're Fox, because sometimes you'll 4-stock people, but you're also the character that will go down 3 stocks to 1 very often.
Yeah, very much the definition of a glass cannon, like, a la Falco and stuff too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really interesting. The venue, that moment when he puts his hands in with the hand warmers and stuff, and is sitting there. Now, PP was saying after the 4-stock that he thought that little meditative moment was more for tripping you up, rather than Armada getting his shit together in his head.
I think I don't know what his intentions were, but I think it worked both ways. Like, I think he got a bit calmer, and I got a little bit shook up too.
Yeah, that motherfucker. But before you got to there, you actually beat your 4th god. You took out Mango, who I guess did you feel like this was a particularly meaningful victory over Mango as far as proving that you're now one of the top six, or what would basically shattering the pantheon?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, this was like a little bit before Apex, and this was when I really like, I was on the way out of my job. Like, I almost had a point at Beast, I think, when I was going to quit. Uh, but I was like thinking about like, what day do I do it? Like, I'm almost at the sub number I want, and I had not been like winning enough, right? Like it had been a year since Beast, and now people were saying, well, now Armada is fully back. He's no longer like half retired. Like he's fully back. And Mango, you never beat Mango, and the matchup's a bit worse in PAL too. So I really felt like I had a lot to prove. And to me, that was a really good win because like it wasn't close.
Right.
We didn't bring it to the game 5, and like I didn't get 4 stock, but I pretty easily won that set.
Yeah.
And I know that he was like, "Oh, it's jet lag, whatever." But like to me, I didn't care about that. I was jet lagged every tournament, so
Yeah, it was.
I don't think that excuse is only works one way.
I know the Swedes coming over every fucking time to every Apex or every big tournament over there had to deal with it, and then now it was like, well, now it's an excuse for Americans.
Yeah.
So that after Beast, what that win, I feel like kind of set up the stage for, because everyone was going crazy for Apex at this point. This was Apex 2015 was going to be PP's return. We were just gone through the summer of Smash. It felt like everything was coming together, and your win at Beast 5 sort of like set the tone coming in, that this was anybody's game almost.
Yeah, I mean, it was also just the money match hype, I think, around both Beast and Apex. Like, a lot of people were on me specifically just because of all the Twitter trash talk and such. And my Beast win was like, yeah, I'm cementing this. Like, I'm one of the people that can win the entire tournament. I'm not just someone that like can get top 8. And then Paragon happened, and that one's crazy. Like, Plup beat me, but then HBox wins the tournament. So it was definitely anyone's win at the time. And I know that like, so for Apex, that was also not the scenes like culmination of everything, but that was also where I realized that like, okay, I almost have a sub, like I can almost pay rent with subs.
Yeah.
Like my goal was a bit under what I actually like shot for, but I had talked to some sponsors, but I wasn't really convinced of any of them. Like they were kind of eh. But I realized that like I'm gonna take the leap. I'm gonna quit my job because if I can show to people with a good performance that I'm doing this full time too, I can actually get a much better like salary and a more prestigious sponsor than if I just like, yeah, I'm doing this on the side, especially as a suite. Like it's a hard sell.
Yeah.
And at the time, like my parents, my girlfriend, they were all like, no, you shouldn't do this. But to me, I had added up all the numbers. I had saved up. I knew for sure that like this is the time to do it.
Yeah.
This is like I'm gonna do the money match just against Chillin' Dude at this time, but I'm gonna do well and like there's so much spotlight. But then everything that happened was still like beyond like anything I could have imagined. Like I thought like maybe I'll get a sponsor if I win the event, but I didn't think that like I would beat Chillin' Dude in such a fashion that Mango would challenge me, that like the whole tournament would be moved and it would be all this drama around it. Like it was like a perfect storm for both the Smash scene and I think both like for me too, because after all these money match and after everything happened, I remember TSM messaged me and they were like, yeah, we saw your money match and like we saw all that, because it was number 1 on Reddit. Like
That's right.
Leffen versus Mango for $1,000.
Yeah.
And not just Smash Bros, but like on r/all. And I think that just helped really like a lot of people knew who I was, and like I had the Godslayer role in the Smash scene, but that really brought it up to like the wide audience.
Yeah.
And it really ended up helping me out in the long run.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm glad it worked out. TSM, I think, really fits you really well.
Yeah, at the time, it was like they didn't have the greatest offer either, but I looked up who they were and like what they believed in. And I was like, yeah, this is the right fit. I'm going to take this. And I told them like, you don't have to pay me as much right now, but if I keep doing well, you're gonna raise my price in 6 months, and that just ended up working perfectly.
That's awesome. You just hit on an important point that I had totally forgot about. One of the main reasons that everyone was freaking out about Apex 2015 was the sort of showdown between you and Chillin, which had started to take shape, I think, in October, like around the Big House 4. That's when sort of the trash talk started heating up. What was that whole like in your head? I know you were very expressive about it at the time. How did it feel to have a a rap made about you, and it's one that became very, very popular, one that you ended up singing or rapping, I suppose. Yeah, what was that like?
So the whole thing started, I think, with like obviously I'm trying to go full time, and chillin' dude was sponsored, and to me he was just sponsored because he was in the documentary, right? And like to me, I was just like, well, I deserve the sponsor. So but it was both like a little bit of a jealousy, but also like I know I can use this angle to like stir things up, and make my own brand, because obviously sponsors are gonna see what I write about their things and like stuff like that.
Yeah,
But it was pretty wild experience because I mean the whole money match was kind of founded around this thing that like Chillin' Dude is supposed to be good in Fox to Dose, and I'm supposed to be bad at them. Everyone knew that I would like. Right now, it seems silly to think that like, how was this a serious money match?
right,
But at the time, most people really in the scene knew that I was probably gonna win, but they also knew that I would fall apart and get four stuck sometimes.
right,
And they really thought that I was bad at foxtails. Like I was, and the thing was that I was bad at foxtails half a year before, but like I don't think they realized that like yeah I'm bad at it, but I'm gonna practice it because I know there's a money match. Like I'm gonna get good at it before the money match happens.
right.
Um, and obviously there were a lot of people that were documentary kids that just kind of came in and they saw. I mean, I was not in the first match documentary at all, so they just saw Chillin' Dude. He's sponsored by Team Liquid. This guy's the favorite, right?
He beat Ken.
Yeah, yeah. So I think to me that was also kind of this way of like winning over some of the people that were doc kids that were new to this, to like, yeah, you watch this documentary, but here's how the scene really is right now. Like,
Right.
welcome to 2015.
Right.
Um, and I mean, it was a surreal experience because I was just like, I was a little paranoid. I was always practicing, and then I just hear this rumor while I was streaming, like, yeah, Children's making a rap video. I'm like, what? A rap video? Shouldn't he be practicing? And it's like, no, he's making a rap video. And it was just like, it was just so weird. Like to me, I thought it was a complete, like I thought he was really screwing up. But like looking back at it, him making a rap video was like he probably wouldn't have won either way. And him making the rap video both ended up helping him and eventually me out, because it just immortalized the whole moment.
Yeah.
Because it's so ridiculous. Like it's a money match, but it's also a rap battle, and it was all these different things.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it ended up being a win-win for everybody. It was one of the most hype moments, I think, in Smash history. And like you said, it was one of the. I mean, the money match that happened afterwards, between you and Mango, was the one that I believe that was the one that hit top page Reddit front number one. But that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't destroyed Chillin 5-0 in the money match. While you were up there, and I was right up there with the camera watching you and watching, Chillin's face during this whole thing. What was your reaction sort of watching it from the side angle in the new doc? And what was it like? Because you did a few theatrical things, like you kind of tapped him on the shoulder at the time, sort of playing it up. What was that like in the moment?
I mean, I kind of realized that like this was all like a big show and like things like that with the rap video. So I kind of tried to play up because I had seen money matches in the FGC at the time, and they were all like they were a little bit more theatrical and a little bit more like trash talking like that. So I mean, it was just like it was almost like a haze. I barely remember like doing some of the things. It was very like in the moment type thing.
Yeah.
A lot of the like disrespectful things I did in game and stuff like that, I didn't really like sit down and be like, yeah, I'm gonna disrespect them like this. It was more like, I'm winning, let's try this. And then I started laughing because it worked. And it was like a very surreal experience looking back at it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that we will ever. I mean, I don't want to say never again, but that moment was such a unique moment in time where that was a salty sweet that was, the size of any massive event that had come up to that point in time. So it was really bizarre and surreal. So after you did the 5-0 and Mango got up there and started talking to you on the mic, do you have any idea what was going to happen?
I had not heard anything about it pre-planned or anything. I think Mango had told other people apparently that he was going to challenge me if I beat Chillin' Dude. But to me, you can see me asking him, and I'm like, "Do you want to play right now?" Like that's what I asked.
Really?
And I was ready to go, but I thought it was gonna. I thought it was gonna go like right then. I didn't think it was gonna be tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I remember in that moment that like I had like I did not have a lot of money. I just quit my job, right? Like I was going to be out, and obviously my parents, my girlfriend weren't really thinking that I could afford everything. So to them, doing a money match kind of crazy. But I remember as soon as he said it, I was like, in my mind, I went through that like it's gonna be $1,000. But if we meet, it has to be winter semis, and in winter semis, I'm gonna get at least fifth if I get there, because I'm gonna lose twice and get fifth, and then I will get $800 or like $900 plus the $100 I get from Children. So I'll barely be able to make the payment. And all of that went through in my head, like, yeah, I can barely afford this. Like to Mango, he had sponsored, he had streams. Like $1,000 is not much, but for me, that was like I could barely make this.
Yeah.
But luckily, it was like, if it had just been a money match, like at the spot for $1,000, I would not have taken it. Like I don't think I could have taken $1,000.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad it ended up working the way it did, because it was kind of perfect. That Armada and PP were on one side of the bracket, and you and Mango were on the other as far as the semifinals went. Did you? And obviously, to get to Mango in the semifinals, you had to go through Mewtwo King, someone you hadn't beaten in tournament yet. The last god standing. Was that sort of did that? I mean, I think Scar mentions it when you do beat him, that Mewtwo King was a stepping stone for you, and that you probably you alluded to this earlier. That wasn't as important. Beating all the 5 gods wasn't as important as becoming the best and winning events.
Yeah.
Did you have any sort of gratification though in that moment, like when you were going up against him?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely because I just lost so many times to him when I felt like I should be winning.
Yeah.
So to me, that was like, yeah, finally. Like I said before that like I don't really care about beating music. I want to win the event, but I would be lying if I didn't say that like finally beating him and like doing it that way was still like finally. I can finally like I can drop this narrative of being someone chasing the gods and just like kind of now I'm just one of the top players.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to get to that money match with Mango too. So it was like, it was both a stepping stone, but it like looking back at it, it was very nice for me not to have to deal with the like whole narrative as much anymore, to like complete that step of my quest.
Yeah. Yeah. And it felt like a quest, like you were collecting the Infinity Stones or something, like and you had finally done it. So that it was really an incredible moment just as a spectator. So did you, after you started going up against Mango, did you get a sense that first match with him, it was really back and forth, very back and forth, and it kind of hinged on a few key moments. It was a Battlefield, I think. Did you feel really good after that first win? Did you feel like, okay, I'm in the groove against Mango here?
I felt like at the time I think I thought I played okay, but looking back at it, it was like the hype was actually just too much, especially for like such a hard match as far as like both me and Mango looked at it after the point, like now with the documentary, was like, this match we played so like we're so much better now. This is 2015. It's not that long ago, but like looking back at it now, it's like embarrassing almost. but I mean, at the time, it was just crazy pressure. Even for Mango's playing Evo main stage, like the thing is that the money match was set up the day before.
Right.
So like you had this whole moment building up to it. When you're usually in top 8, it's like it's gonna happen. Like you get to the top 8 and then you play the top 8 pretty quickly. Like usually the same day at those times, right? It wasn't Sunday top 8 at that point very often. So you didn't really have no one was really used to like building up the hype for one specific match for that long at that point. So I think that kind of like made both of us play even shakier and like even more nervous than normal.
Yeah.
So the whole set was just kind of like a crazy scramble where both of us like knew that we played kind of bad, but also really, really wanted to win.
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of historic too for just the was that I think it was the first $1,000 money match. Except I think the last Apex, the Apex 2014, they had the $1,000 one between Tafo.
Oh yeah. But that like it was definitely like a really big money match at the time. Like $1,000 for that. I mean, me versus Chillin, dude, was $100, and that was hyped out. That like it was not a lot of money if you really think about it, but like it was kind of crazy because there was not a lot of money back then in the scene, especially not for like me. It was really like down to like, I mean, you would win like one tournament every 6 months and you would get like 2 or 3K usually. Yeah, it was a crazy amount of money at the time.
Yeah. Well, it set up your victory over it. Set up the build as the climax for the entire series in Metagame, which is you versus PPMD. With PP is the last hope for America against the evil Swede. What was going through your mind for that one? That was one of the obviously everybody's gotten better. There is some real hype to those moments. I think the one though that people mistake though is there's that one side B where it looks like he grabs the ledge, but it actually you were a little bit lower and you just sort of fell. What was that sort of in the moment? Did you feel like you could come back and win it still at that point, or how'd that go?
I don't remember that much about the set at that point.
Yeah.
Because it was like this crazy, like that day was super long.
That's true.
I remember the top 8 finishing at like 3 a.m. or something. So to me, that was like just a crazy like haze of like emotions, and that was after the Manga Money match.
Right.
But it was a really intense set, like super back and forth. Every game was like really, really close. And I remember like trying very, very hard until the bitter end, but like ultimately being really upset about like a couple key moments. Like I remember like him edge gun me with Nair, like kind of on accident or something on the left side of FD. And like, there was just a lot of like super tiny things that I really wish I could go back and change. But it was still like a really entertaining set to play.
Yeah. It was crazy hype. You're right though. I think that does seem to be part of it. It's like when you have these really intense sets, sometimes key moments are just these flubs or weird things that happen. I would be curious to see that match again.
Yeah, for sure.
That sort of brings us through all the main moments in that are covered in Metagame. Obviously, not long after this, you were going into 2015. You were on a tear, and then they had the visa issues. I was wondering, do you think that if you ran back the clock and you hadn't been banned for that year and you hadn't been sidelined for a year with the visa stuff, how do you think Smash history would have changed?
I think it's really hard to say, but to me, it's one of those things where I think the ban thing was unjust and I don't think it was done right. No. But I think that was, for me, something that I really benefited from. I made it like a benefit because I went to other fighting games. I met my girlfriend. I met my roommate at Tom Belblom, who was really good at other fighting games, who taught me a lot of perspective around that. So I think that the ban was absolutely something that I used in the right way to eventually become a much better player and competitor. The visa thing, I think it definitely hurt more.
Right.
I at that point I'd already proven things, but it was still, and it was just a really annoying thing of like people kept telling me you'll be able to make it back um in 3 months or in 6 months, and
Right.
like it was always this thing where like in the beginning I was practicing, but after a while it was just like it was just heartbreaking to practice and not be able to go to things when everyone else was doing it.
Yeah.
At the time, like I think that one probably hurt my rankings and like rankings, because I definitely think that I would have been number one for that year had it not been for the visa issues. But I think still the people that like really know like knew that like during that summer I was the best, and like I was the best until the visa happened. Maybe I wouldn't have been the best, but like even though I eventually ended up getting like third due to some like really weird stuff that year, like I'm still like okay with everything that happened with the visa thing, just because like I know in my head what I achieved that year, and then the visa thing also led to one of my best performances in Gammel 2016,
I
which
remember
was
that.
like even though that tournament probably doesn't weigh up in like the history books as much as getting number one for the year, for me personally, overcoming such a massive like disadvantage of like not being able to practice for a year, I probably hold that higher than being ranked 2 spots higher, like on a ranking.
Yeah. That was an incredible. I remember vividly because it was like, okay, well, finally we're going to get Leffen back in the mix, and it was
Mhm.
an incredible performance. Um, Honestly, I think one of the most amazing levels of melee I've seen was when you went on your tear at Evo 2018, and I know that was a major goal of yours for years. What do you think that was the highest level of melee we've seen? Was your run there, or what do you think? And also maybe what your thoughts of with that tournament having fulfilled a long dream for you?
Yeah, so Evo was always the tournament where I did badly, and like I always disliked that it was like best of three, and I had a lot of problems with like how Evo ran it. There was no warm up setups, so I really felt like it was a hard tournament for a Fox to do well in, but also just for me, I had this mental block against it. So it was another one of those where I like really felt like I needed to overcome myself and the tournament. Um, as for the play, it's really hard to say. Like I was definitely a step above everyone else at that point. And something that makes Evo very special is just that you're in a massive arena with thousands of people. Like the circumstances and the nerves are bigger on that stage than any other stage, bar none.
Yeah,
And so if you look at the gameplay, I don't think the gameplay I think the gameplay has definitely been outperformed since. But I guess the argument is that like for the time, it was a very, very impressive thing considering all the nerves, and like other people completely fell apart with the nerves, and like did not play well at all. And that's real understandable. So, but I'm just really proud that like despite the nerves and despite having my troubles with the tournament, like all the mental baggage with Evo, that I was still able to perform that way. But I definitely think that like just gameplay wise, if you look at it like that, if we haven't already, we'll definitely see it outperformed soon.
yeah, yeah. Well, it was incredible, and seeing your reaction to it, I knew I had to
Mhm.
include it in the "Where Are They Now" section, just because
Mhm.
when you stand up there and your eyes closed and you're just taking in the moment. Um, do you think that was? I mean, obviously, that's got to be one of the top sort of experiences for you, right?
Mhm. Um, I still rank Beast 4 higher
Yeah,
simply because, like, again, at Evo, it was like it was an amazing goal, but it's more of a like Evo was this like personal thing that I wanted to finally do, but Beast was like a corner store. Like, can I even play Smash full time? Like, can I even use? I could have lost Evo and still been fine, but it was a massive relief and like an amazing win. But Beast and maybe even Gamo were still like wins that where it's like, man, this is like I'm coming through an extremely hard spot. I had everything going against me and I still performed. Whereas Evo was just like I played amazingly, but I was on an even playing field with everyone else.
yeah, yeah. No, that's cool. I'm kind of coming toward the ends of the questions that I had. I did have
Mm-hmm.
one more, and then I guess we could talk about any other thoughts that you had on the documentary or anything like that. But this last question is much more about the modern scene. It feels like we're kind of in a weird spot right now with the community. It's sort of like a pandemic community in a way. It's like only exists online. Once we do come back to live events, is it going to be different? How do you feel like everything has kind of sort of affected the community and where we are right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a weird spot, but I think that due to Slippy and like the unranked and like the massive amounts of new people coming in, I have a really hard time seeing that we will not somehow overcome this. And I think that maybe we won't see it right away, but I think that eventually, as all the new people that can now start playing and how much lower the barrier of entry is, I think we're heading into something really special. Like as soon as things finally start, and it's the first couple events, not everyone's going to be willing to go to. You're going to need vaccines and everything. But if there's any scene that's like well equipped to dealing with harsh happenings in our scene, I would say it's the Melee scene, and I mean the Smash community in general. So I think we're gonna be, it might not be like the Golden or the Platinum Age, but I think it's going to be something even more special in its own way.
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to it, man. I think, once we all finally get back into the same building and friendly setups start and like the sounds of the clacking, the cacophonous reverberations of Dreamland playing over and over again, I think that it's going to be like coming home. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Was there any other thoughts you had on the documentary, on the game, anything else that you had on your mind about the history of that period?
I think I'm pretty much good. I just want to say thank you for doing everything, and I'm sorry for my part and giving you hate online. And I think we're both fine with it, but I wanted to say it in case anyone's watching this that I mean, we both everyone makes mistakes, myself obviously included, and I just want everyone to know that the Smashine's great, and I think the pandemic and everything that's happened, I think it's really important that we all try to work together and not try to fight, because we really need everyone, especially with what happened last year and everything that came out. We got to realize that what we have is really special in the Smash community, and we got to take care of that instead of fighting over every little thing. And I'm definitely to blame for fighting over a little thing when it comes to things. But I think we're all growing, and I think people need to realize that there will be struggles, but I think we're going to do great.
Yeah, I appreciate the words, man, and I know we talked about it a little, before, and for my part, I definitely am. I'm sorry that I put you in that position to even have to react that way, because and it's actually made the documentary better by me changing a lot of things around. And it's given me perspective too, getting hate online. It's oh man, maybe I should be very careful about, making sure I cover all my bases and talk to everybody before I just put something out there, which is definitely giving me perspective on what it's like to be in the spotlight like you and Mango and everybody is. So in that sense, it's definitely opened my eyes. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you, man, and thanks for coming on and talking with me about this.
Of course.